Okay. So I just got information on this video. I was listening to somebody play this guy's audio, and he's trying to tell men about women from a man's perspective. I want to first let me start by saying this is fair use. This is fair use. I'm going to break every talking point down bit by bit and give my perspective on each bit. So let me go. Let's see here. Let's hear.
Your menstruation is literally your body, nature, God, if you are religious, telling you to have children now. Not doing that is exactly the same as not eating meat and fat when you are hungry. It completely goes against your body's needs and senses, and you will be naturally punished for it. And in this case, you are punished with your looks. Every woman on earth that did not get pregnant when she was supposed to now looks different than she should, which means that most women in Europe and North America don't look the way they are supposed to. Do you understand how big of a deal this is? Almost every woman that walks past you.
He's associating a woman or a young girl's menstruation and pregnancy or not getting pregnant to the way she looks. This is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard and idiotic things I've ever heard a man say. Now, I've heard a lot of weird stuff being said through the manosphere about women, but this is one of the most absolute idiotic things being said. Some of the most beautiful women in the world, people who are considered to be supermodels, right? Women that are said to be, like I said, some of the most beautiful women have never had children. That's not to say that women who have children aren't beautiful. They are as well. But this is this man's perspective on pregnancy, menstruation, and womanhood, and what is considered gorgeous, beautiful, or whatever. Or saying that he's saying that women are not beautiful if they don't have children. Yes, women who have children who go through pregnancies have glow. They have a beauty. They have a there's a beauty to pregnancy. There's a beauty to that natural order, right? But it's not his decision to make for women whether they want to bring life into this world. It's not his business. Now, if he was married, hold on one second. Hey, stop. Quit licking your feet. You make them bleed. No, no. Um, so it's not his decision. Now, if he was with a woman and they decide to have a child, if they decide to bring a child into this world, then so be it. That's their choice because they're in a partnership, right? But every woman's not in a partnership, and every woman is not, or even women who are in partnerships, maybe her and her husband choose never to have children. Maybe that's just what they want to do, right? They don't want to have children, and it's their prerogative not to. He said something along the lines of menstruation. Now, I want to get into this because this man knows absolutely zero, zilch, nothing concerning women. He's not a woman. Let's continue.
In everyday life doesn't look the way she is naturally supposed to. The looks are one thing, but there's a much bigger problem that most women have no clue about. Your body stops growing at around the age of 18. Growth is not only your height, your body goes through a lot of changes, and one of them is that it tightens and stays that way for life. This is a huge problem for women.
What does he mean by tighten? He's talking about women who go through they're going through puberty. I don't understand his thought process. However, let's continue.
In the West today, You've probably been told all of your life that childbirth is very painful, right? It actually isn't, but it is for most women.
He's going to tell a woman what childbirth is like. He's going to tell a woman what it feels like to have a child. Does he have ovaries? Does he have menstruation? Has he had a child? No. How can he tell a woman what childbirth is like? I had my first daughter when I was 18 years old. I got pregnant with her at 17. I was under distress. She was breech. I was in serious pain. She was coming out butt first, which is deadly for the child, is deadly for the mother. If I hadn't have went to the hospital at the time that I went to the hospital, she and I would have died. Let me continue.
In the West, and that's because they give birth almost 15 years too late. You have to understand that from nature's perspective, you are seen as a loser, and that's why you will be punished with pain. This is why you have to give birth when you are young and flexible. Your hips will widen very easily when giving birth, and you won't have to go through those.
Age has nothing to do with pain and giving birth. Age has nothing to do with what your hips are doing. Naturally, a woman's hips will disengage to birth a child through her vaginal canal, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're 18, it doesn't matter whether you're 15, it doesn't matter whether you're 25, 35, 40, or 50. It doesn't matter any of the age, whether your body disengages to have a child. This is a natural thing. It's the progression of having a child. Women can have distressed childbirth, whether they're 15, 20, 30, 40, or 50. There's no age group that says a birthing a child or a particular child is not or is going to be a stressful thing. And if you want to get technical, when you're a younger girl having a child, the data is out there, and I'm very sure he does not read data or listen to data, but children, young girls, teens, young teens have a higher mortality rate having a child. Their body isn't prepared for it. And neither is their mind, frankly. Let's continue.
Painful contractions that women who give birth at an unnatural age go through. Your hips will stay that way and make all of your future births just as easy, whereas those women.
Incorrect. There are women who've had 4 and 5 children, had easy pregnancies, and then can have a complication on their 5th child. He's not giving these men correct information. There is no rhyme or reason to when there is a complication in a birth. Everything he's talking about is bullshit and nonsense. He knows nothing about what he's talking about. Let's continue.
Can even risk bleeding to death when they give birth. Again, this is a natural punishment for going against nature.
Can he tell me where he gets this information? There's no natural punishment when it comes to giving birth. If he's talking about environment, if he's talking about the foods we eat now, if he's talking about the air we breathe, if he's talking about all those things, they have absolutely nothing to do with any kind of spiritual punishment. It has everything to do with environmental issues. It has to do with what this culture is producing. Unhealthy food, unhealthy air, unhealthy water produce an unhealthy pregnancy. Unhealthy spiritual things that you take in create an unhealthy pregnancy. Relationships that are toxic create an unhealthy pregnancy. And even under the best of circumstances, even if you have all the circumstances at your disposal, healthy water, healthy food, good air, a good relationship, you can still have a complication in your pregnancy. This is dodo bird shit he's talking about.
You won't have stretch marks, your breasts will be much bigger, because you will be pregnant while you are going through puberty, which is how it's supposed to be.
Has his vagina and everything stretched out to have a child? How is he going to tell a woman which women are going to have stretch marks? When I got pregnant with my first daughter, I had stretch marks on my ass and my hips. I had zero stretch marks on my stomach. Zero. I had stretch marks on my breast because my breast went from a B cup to a double D cup. It depends on what's happening to your body. This man knows absolutely nothing about a woman's body and why she gets stretch marks. It has absolutely zero to do with age. Does he not know that women or young girls at 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years of age get stretch marks? The problem with men like him is they discard women like that. If they're no longer appealing, if their body is no longer appealing to them, they discard them. That's why you have cultures of men who marry woman after woman after woman after woman and discard them after they have children. It's very unfortunate. Let's continue.
It will give you an extra boost, so to speak. This is how you actually naturally get an attractive body as a woman. Of course, you have to still eat natural food to be well developed and have an easy birth. You can't eat cookies and pasta and expect to have an easy childbirth, no matter how young you are. Genes obviously also play a role.
There's a lot of Italian people and people in the Mediterranean that eat a shit ton of pasta and they have healthy pregnancies. What's he talking about? Pasta pasta has nothing to do with it. The occasional cookie has nothing to do whether you're going to have a good pregnancy or a bad pregnancy. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, how much healthy food you eat. If you're going to have a distressed pregnancy, it can just happen, no matter how healthy the food is that you eat.
And some women simply do have different body types. The media teaches women to be promiscuous. The schools teach them to use protection. And the families usually...
Men teach women to be promiscuous. And how they teach women to be promiscuous is when you have a little young girl, or I don't even want to say young girl. Let's just say she's 18, 19, 20 years old. And she gets a boyfriend. And the boyfriend tells her everything she wants to hear. He pumps her up. And then after he has sex with her, he discards her. Those are the environmental issues, those personal relationship issues that cause young girls to go promiscuous. Men who aren't men. Let's just say boys who are in men's bodies who do not conduct themselves like a man. That's what creates promiscuity. Men who run around and have sex with multiple partners, that's what creates that environment, as well as media. But he's not taking his responsibility as a man.
Don't even get involved today. They don't have a strong father figure to lead them or to teach them anything. Back in the day, we did not document our birth dates as we do now. Most people didn't know how old they are because naturally it's irrelevant. On the day a girl got her first period is usually...
What birth dates documented back then got anything to do with his topic? This dude is all over the place with this information, and none of it is factual. It's absolutely zero. There's no zero facts to it. What I'm speaking is facts because I actually have birthed 2 children. I have been pregnant 5 times. I've had 2 miscarriages. This man knows nothing of what he's talking about. Let's continue.
When she lost her virginity and got impregnated, nobody cared about her exact age because it didn't matter until today. I'll give you some examples. In Spain, 20 years ago, The age of consent was 12. It was changed to 16 some years ago. In Italy and Germany, it was also 12 for ages.
A 12-year-old's body is not conducive to having children. Just because a little girl menstruates doesn't mean that her body is prepared to have a baby.
In Italy, it is 14 now. Not that much has changed there. In Canada, up until 2008, it was also 14. Artificial marriages with a contract usually happen between the ages of 9 and 12 all around the earth.
What's an artificial marriage? Is he trying to say that a state run or government run marriage is artificial? I can agree with him if that's the case because there's a spiritual contract between people and couples. There is a divine contract between people and couples. There are divine twin flame contracts, you know. But even if you're living in this world, in the 3D world, right? You also have to protect yourself legally, either having a lawyer write up a contract between the couple or actually getting married in the state that you reside in or another state in the country you live in. Because of those are the protections when it comes to finances. Those are the protections when it comes to your wealth and keeping your wealth. So is he talking about that those contracts are absolutely, they're not beneficial? They have their place. They have their place in this world because you have to function in these governments, right? So you have to have a marriage contract that is binding to protect your wife, your children, and assets that you both have built. Let's continue.
Over 100 years ago, the age of consent in the United States was 7 to 12 years, depending on the state. In 1920, after World War,
no child can consent, and this is the kind of stuff that promotes pedophilia. This is the type of information that men are giving that promote men to be attracted to young little children, and they think that it's okay. It is not okay to manipulate a child. It is not okay because that child cannot consent. That child, Bomb Cherry said on her live stream, that child can't even venture into a contract with a bank to create a bank account before the age of 18. She cannot she cannot she cannot buy a car. She cannot There's so many things she cannot do legally because she's not of age to build a contract like that with corporations or what have you. She can't even do that. So how is she consenting enough to give a man her body at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15? How is she able to do that? She's not, there's no, she can't give consent at that young age of 12, 13, and 14. She's a child. Legally, she's a child. These type of dudes promote pedophilia. These are the type of dudes with this mindset that think that it's okay to jump on a toddler, a young child at the age of 7 and do what they want with them. They think they have the right to do that. Thank God that legally we have laws that prevent things like this from happening, because there would be a lot of violating of children. Their minds aren't prepared for that. Bodies aren't prepared for that. He's not even talking about the mental state of a child. He's not even talking. He's only talking about whether she has a period and actually can get pregnant. What kind of mother would she make? She hasn't even developed herself as a woman. She doesn't even have the mental capabilities to nurture a child to the full potential of that child. She's just a basic breeder by doing that. These men want to create women that are just basic breeders. Let's continue.
One, it was changed to 16 to 18 all of a sudden. That's also when women started working and sending their children to kindergarten. All of a sudden, the children were in the hands of the government. Everything started going downhill 100 years ago. It was like a great reset. Nowadays, we have mind control programs such as To Catch a Predator with Chris Hansen.
Listen to this. Listen closely. Listen
Men get
closely.
caught for wanting to sleep with 15-year-old girls. Yet in Europe, the age of consent is 14 to 15 in most countries. And that's simply because even the
So he thinks he has the right to sleep with young girls. These are the type of dudes that get little young girls pregnant and take off and run. Leave them responsible for the offspring they've created and leave them with no resources to care for that offspring. These are the type of dudes that don't take responsibility for what they do. Zero responsibility. This is the reason why you have legal abortion or had legal abortion in the first place. This type of mentality. Let me continue. I'm gonna be honest. I'm really, really biting and holding and harnessing my tongue with what I really, really, really want to say because I don't want to be nice at all. But I'm trying to be nice.
governments here understand that no matter how old you are as a guy, you would have to be severely mentally ill not to find a 15-year-old girl attractive. Yet in the United States, you are seen as a monster for having a natural attraction, even though that's only 1 year away from 16.
He's talking about attraction, but talks about no responsibility for action. He's not telling these men any responsibility for getting a child, a 15-year-old who cannot even support herself because legally she can't even get a job that is sustainable for her own life and well being, let alone a child that he produces with her. There's no responsibility, zero responsibility on his part. And these are the same men that are anti abortion. And they're also anti taking care of their children that they produce from their sexual actions. Let's continue.
Which is legal in a lot of states. It's a man made number, and most importantly, in nature, you would never be able to tell if a girl is 15 or 16. Yet people still get prison sentences for sleeping with 15-year-old girls. But it's totally fine if she turns 16 the next day. Absolutely ridiculous. Women in nature don't work. Yes, they may get their food or do some chores here and there, but that's about it. Men do all of the heavy work, and that's because biochemically we actually enjoy it.
True story. My grandma had 9 children. My grandma was 5 foot tall. I don't even think she was 5 foot tall. I think she was 4'11". She was 4'11". She had 9 children. She had a set of twins. When she had a set of twins, this is the thing about my grandma. My grandma, my dad's mom, used to garden out in the heat, prepare all the food, make clothes, do all the housework, taking care of 9 children, while my grandpa did construction and worked through the day. When he came home, she fed him. She canned food for the wintertime for the family. She gave birth or started to give birth pushing a hand plow in the garden to produce the food that they ate and the food that would be canned for the wintertime to feed the 9 children. What the fuck is this dude talking about? About work and women and childbearing. And nowadays, women work full-time secular jobs, sometimes working between 8 to 14 or 16 hours a day, and then come home and take care of the children that they have, if they have children, and the household and their husbands. That's exhausting. It's not a wonder why women are choosing not to have children. It's a lot of responsibility. And the older that you get into your 20s and 30s, the more you understand that responsibility. He's not talking about any responsibility for having children.
You, as a woman, do not want to work, and you most certainly do not enjoy working out or doing any kind of sports. Hormonally, it completely goes against your biochemistry. The more you work out, the more infertile you get. You
That's a lie. When my daughter had my grandson and she's pregnant right now, she worked out every day. Still works out at least 6 times a week. Let me show this channel on YouTube. Hold on. Uh, let me find her. And this is a woman who was pregnant through her workout and didn't even know she was pregnant and thought she had some medical thing wrong with her until she went to the doctor and found out she was 6 months pregnant. Let me show you her videos. And she worked out through her whole pregnancy.
And how I keep them so white. So I wanted to show you all what I've been using. This is the Snow electric toothbrush.
Just a moment. She's 7 months pregnant now. This is a woman that was in the gym every day, 3 to 4 hours a day. That's one example. Let's continue.
would be a million times happier having a peaceful life, taking care of your children and your husband. A large amount of the time, you would be pregnant, and that alone would make you want to rest, besides running the risk of a miscarriage if you would lift anything heavy. Women nowadays sleep around, and then they later realize that they want to have a family, and a husband who is loyal and respects them snap out of it. Deep down.
I'm going to be honest with you. Men like him, they bring no loyalty to the relationship. Men like him bring no security. The reason why women want the right to choose abortion, one of the reasons, not all of the reasons, but one of them is particularly for men like him who think that sex and having children is the end all be all. However, they're usually not ever there for the child. They're not there for the wife. They're not there for the woman in her pregnancy. These women are by themselves because it's not about them sleeping around. It's that when they have a child or get pregnant with this man, and he was talking about the fake marriage, right? The state contracted marriage, that spiritual marriage that a man can run off from anytime he fucking chooses to with no responsibility. He's the type, and that mentality is the type that leave women and young women, because he's trying to get 14 and 15-year-old girls pregnant and 16-year-old girls pregnant, leave them with no resources and a baby by themselves. Let's continue.
Every man is going to see you as used up. Don't complain about it. Realize that you fucked up and try to make the best out of it. Let's break all of this down and take the US as an example. As a teenager, you sleep around. Already when you've had 2 to 3 partners, the likeliness of you ever being able to pick.
Does he ever talk about the women that are raped and molested as a young child? Because I was raped at 3 years old. Does he talk about those type of situations, and where's the responsibility for the men who rape children? Because that's what it is. Having sex with an 11, 12, and 13-year-old and 14-year-old child, that's straight up rape. Where's the responsibility?
Bond is close to impossible. You are not allowed to naturally marry anybody who is older than you, who may be strong enough to take care of you, but you are allowed to sleep with other teenagers who watch porn and will drop you as soon as they have used you. This is where all of these damaged girls come from. You are not even allowed to artificially marry anybody without a contract before the age of 18. This is insane and inhumane because they make it impossible for girls to have stable relationships or to create.
He calls state marriage artificial. And the reason why he's calling it artificial is because it makes him, as a man, accountable for his resources. Let's say he has a pension and he has money and he has all these different things, and he marries this young girl and she's 16 or 17 years old. And then he leaves her. It allows the state to come after him financially for the burden of that child. That's something these men don't want to be responsible for. They absolutely don't want to be responsible. That's why they call it a fake marriage, artificial marriage. Because they don't want to be responsible. They don't want to be held responsible. And they don't want the state to make them, or their city or their country make them responsible for the child that they brought into the world with a young girl.
Create a functioning family. You may have so-called relationships that even last a few years, but all of them will break in the end because of this. Essentially, it is illegal to have a family in the United States of America. I'm not kidding. This is what the New World Order is all about. China is a good example of it. The age of consent is 18, and to marry anybody, you have to be 20 as a woman and 22 as a man. This is basically.
The reason why you have to be older is because you have a lot more knowledge under your belt and you have a lot more information when it comes to jobs, resources, finances, and building financial wealth. The reason why it's a better match for you to be older to have children is because you have those resources and you're able to build those resources, and you bring children into a situation where they're not in poverty. I want to say a cuss word so bad it's not even funny. I'm trying to bite my tongue. I'm really trying to bite my tongue not to say something really offensive. There's a reason why age brings more maturity, and being able to give your child more than just life. Bring a child into the world and then have nothing to be able to feed them, clothe them, put shelter over their head, resources, and you don't have anything within yourself to teach them because you are not developed yourself enough at the age of 15, 16, and 17, and 18, and 19 years old. We're not even talking below that age because that's just straight up a rape of a child. So this person hasn't even developed themselves enough to give the child what that child needs. You can't educate the child because you're not educated. You can't give the child development because you're not developed. Your mind's not developed. Your spirit's not developed. There's nothing you can give that child except for life. Life with dread and sorrow, because that child is doomed with no resources. The parent has absolutely nothing they can give that child because they're a child themselves.
Years too late and guarantees a 99% family failure rate. I assume that the age of consent will be 18 to 20 in the NWO, if there even will be any. Essentially, there won't be such a thing as a family. This is all part of the depopulation agenda. You believe that you are being oppressed as a woman, when in reality, the liberation is oppression.
Liberation is not oppression, but with liberation comes responsibility. Men have always had the right to be liberated to an extent. It goes by class because the system structure, the patriarchal system structure, discriminates against class, what class you are. It discriminates against your race, and it discriminates against your gender. It discriminates about your sexual preferences. So usually, white men like him already have liberation to an extent. If you're a lower class white man, then you have less liberation, right? So he has a problem with women having liberation. He's had the right for liberation. He's had the rights pretty much handed to him from a system structure from the jump start. But he has a problem in the video, through the video, he has a problem with women having self autonomy. He has a problem with women making choices for themselves. Do they always make the right choice? Probably not. Do men always make the right choice? Definitely not. But he doesn't want to allow women. That's why he wants to catch women at a very young age, 12, 13, 14, 15, to marry. So he can manipulate them. He can groom them. That's why he wants that. That's why he's pushing this. That's why he's pushing men to push this. This is what they want because they don't want to step up and become better men. They don't want to step up and educate themselves and spiritually refine themselves. They don't want to do any of that work. That's why they want a child, a girl child, because they absolutely don't. Like, you can hear how he talks. Is there anything educated about the things he was saying? Nothing. Zero, zilch, nothing. There's no factual data behind him in his speech when it comes to pregnancies, when it comes to a menstruation, when it comes to a woman's body and how it works. Zero, nothing. He has no education. He knows nothing. Nothing about how a woman's body works in childbirthing. Nothing. And he's trying to tell these men how women work. Stop it. How much more is left on this video? Okay, I think that's it. Anyways, men like this are disturbing because they push these agendas, and these agendas are harmful to women. They're harm that it promotes a rape culture. It promotes women being harmed, young girls being harmed because they think that they have the right to do so. Basically, treating women's bodies like chattel, treating women like chattel, like they are only meant to be breeders for these dudes. This is very harmful thinking. And it's disgusting, by the way. Anyways, I have a lot I could say, but I'm bridling my tongue. I'm bridling what I really, really, really want to channel and say with this. Anyways, none of what he said was factual. And he's pushing pedophilia. He's pushing child rape. He's pushing the for them to have rights to a young girl's body. And thank God there are laws on the book to protect little girls like that. Unfortunately, now when a predator like him gets a little girl pregnant, she doesn't have the right to get an abortion unless her mother or somebody in her family takes her to a state that still allows abortion. This shit's fucked up.